Hello, everybody. It's the A to Z podcast. If you recognize that song, well, you know it's Boomer Sooner. The Cleveland Browns are back, resurrected by a young man born in a manger outside of Austin, Texas, named Baker Mayfield. I'm Zach Jackson. He's Andre Knott. A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. Shout outs, as always, to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks for helping to make this happen, to you guys for listening. Our quick disclaimer as we get excited, we venture into mature/immature subjects, sometimes say bad words. So if that offends you, if there are children around, if you're in a work environment, put on your earbuds or come back some other time. Andre, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I was hoping that wasn't no hope and bullshit. Thank God it wasn't.
Well, you should be smiling. It's been a big 72-ish hours for 5'8" guys here in Cleveland. I'm sure you've enjoyed it.
Look at you, man. Look at the hate. Hey, great night Thursday night. Congratulations to all that were involved and actually made a difference. Can I touch on a couple things quickly?
Well, yeah, sure.
That was a victory in an NFL football game. And I know you guys haven't seen a lot of those recently. But if I hear one more idiot compare that game to winning the NBA championship, I'm going to start slapping fools left and right. I've heard radio hosts say that.
Really? Wait a sec. I mean, I'm assuming you're not making this up. Did that really happen?
No, that really happened. I heard a radio host that will remain nameless. And people will figure it out. They can tweet him. I stand by everything I say. Stupid is stupid. Stupid is, stupid does. When I make mistakes, I expect people. When I say something stupid, I expect people to say something to me. When I tweet something wrong, all you assholes say something to me. Congrats. Yes, I heard idiots actually comparing this to winning an NBA championship. That is a damn shame. It's one football win, people. Do you know in NFL cities, most of them get at least 4 or 5 of them? Even the worst cities a year.
Well,
it was a fantastic night. It was great to see what happened. You don't have to, I know everybody wants to bitch and say, well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? The one thing that I'll stand on, that I'll agree with Zach, that I left alone for most of the preseason, is that they probably, Zach was right, they should have let this kid get some reps with the first team. I just think in the long haul that would have helped him more. Maybe not even so much Thursday night, but I think in the next 2-3 weeks, that may slow down some of the growth that he'll need. But the kid's got some special talents. I think we had a good conversation last week in saying, look, he doesn't have maybe the God-given stuff that Patrick Mahomes has, but he's pretty heady, and he knows where the ball should go. And he had some velo on some of those passes the other night, and the stage wasn't too big for him against the Jets team that, don't forget, picked in the top 3 of the NFL draft last year as well.
Correct. I'm glad you started here. I really didn't know that. I mean, it's just been such a strange few days for me because it was the short week, and then I was up till 4:30 writing, and I just don't do that. My body does not adapt anymore, so I've kind of been out of the real world loop, thanks to that and White Claw and a few other things. The Buckeye, as we record this, guys, the Buckeyes are about 15 minutes from playing. We'll talk a lot of that next week because they have a real game against other guys that drive nice cars from Penn State. We expect them to whap Tulane today. I'm sure we'll get to baseball and other things, but I want to go over Thursday night for several reasons. It is big. And let's just look at it in the vacuum. Let's start there, Dre. For the city, for the franchise, the coach and the owner, let's be honest, and then all the way on down. Just huge, and not just because it had been 600 and so many damn days, not just because they knocked on the door in the first 2 weeks, not just because they should have beaten the Jets and everybody inside and outside of the stadium knew it, but because they were so dead. 14-0 to start felt like 42-0. They looked like the same old shit Browns, right? The offense was beyond terrible, and then the kid comes in, and he just energizes everybody. And it's not that David Njoku and Rashard Higgins are superstars, but all of a sudden when they're making plays, the defense, which absolutely knew where you were going every step of the way in the first half, is back on its heels, right? And the Jets were gassed, and they kept taking it to them. And I'm up there saying, why don't the Jets call timeout? And it was like a 12-0 basketball run every two Baker Mayfield passes, and he just got hot. It was his kind of game. It was his night. And for the guys in that locker room and for the fans, if you're not from here, if you don't have a tie to Cleveland, you might not be listening to this podcast. But to understand where this organization and where this fan base has been, to see the people shoulder to shoulder, nose to asshole on the street chanting Baker Mayfield, clap, 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 that's a long time coming. The celebration is worth it. And then, further in the vacuum, it couldn't have worked out better to where everybody gets those few days to continue to smile, to soak it in. Players got to rest and get well. Because now you're 1-1-1. Now you have the makings of a real offense. You're just getting started, right? I'm trying to stay in the vacuum here before I spin it forward.
Right.
And you have the good vibes, and you'll have the extra practice, and you have a chance. So as we start to look forward, I understand if you're a Browns fan, you're excited as hell for next Sunday at 4. But it can't just be that game, because good teams right now, late September, early October, this is when they're revving up, right? If you're going to be a good team, you're finding yourself right now, regardless of what's happened to this point. So that's good, because the guy who's your quarterback, the guy who gave you this 5-hour energy that your franchise has needed for 5 years, for 11 years, hasn't taken a practice snap with the number ones yet because of your coach.
Right.
Right. So in that regard,
wait. It's more than the coach. He doesn't have enough power to just do that. That has been the game plan from the GM and everybody else. That is an organizational move, and you know it. And it's an organizational move because if it's up to you, he'd put the best guys out there to save his ass. That is an organizational move. I don't care what anybody says. I know it is because of what the past has been.
Sure. It was, and as we've talked about now for 4 weeks, at least they had a plan. Right, that marked huge progress from previous groups. And the plan on paper and in theory was great, right? Bring in the veteran tutor Stanton, who can no longer play, but does the job.
Right.
Bring in the guy to go out, and I hate to say get his head banged in. I'm not really trying to make light of anybody's concussion issue.
No.
But to go out and take those hits, right, and do this, it just got to a point where the passing game, past the first preseason game, stunk.
Terrible.
And here the preseason matters, and that's not as joke as much as it is when you have all these new players. Like, it clearly matters when you have a new play caller.
And I don't want to agree with you, but the one thing I will agree with, when you have the left tackle situation, what the left tackle situation was and is, not a good reason to put a rookie quarterback out there.
No.
And I don't have to agree with everything Hugh says, and I don't. But I do agree with that part. When your left tackle situation has been what it's been since February, whatever day Joe Thomas decided to start losing weight and be a TV guy and have a good podcast, and they haven't done what they've done with the left tackle position, and God bless them, because they should be 3-0. And I can't believe I'm saying that. They should be 3-0 the way they played the last 8 minutes of that Pittsburgh game, the way they played in New Orleans in the last 15 to 30 minutes, and the way they played the last 30 minutes on Thursday night. This team really could be 3-0, and it's not some bullshit that I'm shoving down your throat because I'm getting paid by the team, because I'm not. They literally could be 3-0, and I give them credit for that. And you guys know, if you listen to this podcast, that's not something that I'm used to coming out of my mouth, but they very easily could be, with a kicker and some balls, they could be 3-0.
Well, let's stop right there, because that's a valid point. I'm not going to argue that. What I'm going to say is, now that they won, Dre, now that the elephant no longer in the room and the burden is not following everybody in the organization's every move, now all of a sudden those hold a little more validity, right? The thought that you knew they were improved, right? You could watch one drive of one game with few exceptions, specifically the first game, and know that they were improved. And so now that they've won and they can turn the page from that and learn from that, you're never going to get those 6 plays in the Pittsburgh game back, and you're never going to get the last 6 minutes of the New Orleans game back. But now you can say, hey, we are getting better. And as I said before, the teams that are getting better as September turns to October, as week 7 and 8 sneak up on you as they really do, those are the teams to watch. And you knew for the Browns, specifically offensively, it was going to be a work in progress. New play caller, pending quarterback change, all sorts of new receivers. Guys, it's no coincidence who wasn't multiple people inside that stadium and on the Browns sideline and in the Browns locker room on Thursday night. They got rid of Josh Gordon, and they won a game.
I thought you were talking about the sideline guy.
No.
Anyway, That's the only thing I'm going to say about it. So if you came here for that, that's all you get.
Amen to that, too.
You're right.
Yeah, so what you do...
That talks about... But you know how I feel about Josh Gordon, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And for all those people that were basically putting the whole season upon having that guy, no. And if he goes out and scores 15 touchdowns for the New England Patriots, congrats to the Patriots, because it wasn't going to happen here. That was overdue to happen. Over-freaking-due.
Absolutely.
Now there's somebody I want to give kudos to.
Okay.
And I'm not a big fan of his, but I try to be fair, and when I try to be fair in life. You don't got to like me, but I try to be fair to you. And I hope people can do that the other way around. Greg Williams has done a hell of a job, and Denzel Ward may be the luckiest rookie in a long time because he's playing his ass off, and he's playing like a 3-year, 4-year vet. He's playing. This is the best quarterback play this team has had since Joe Hayden hadn't gotten hurt and hadn't got his gator changed.
He looks like a young Joe Hayden in some of those, right? I think he's.
And this, yes.
Yeah, he's a little bit longer.
He's been tremendous.
Yeah.
He's longer. Yeah, he's a little longer, but same trait. You know, like he uses his speed. He's a true cover guy. Now, cover guys will get beat in this league because you can't put your hands on guys. And the rules don't play towards the corner cover. But this kid, because of Baker Mayfield, because of the losing streak, because of the Josh Gordon stories, he's damn near rookie for what he's done in 3 games. He's going to be in the discussion of rookie of the year defensive player. Now, there's 15 more weeks, 14 more weeks of the season to go. And to win an award like that, you got to stay on the field. You got to continue to make plays. But he's a turnover machine so far early. And you don't see a lot of corners have this type of success early on. I give credit to him. I think I love that pick.
He's a great player.
I love that pick before they before they even drafted him.
He's a great player, and he's 21 and 4 months old, and he's out there playing a spot that they didn't have on this defense before because they couldn't trust anyone. And everybody knows that he's a rookie, and they're picking on him, and he's making, it's not going to go. He's not going to have 16 great games, but he's had 3 of them.
No.
Right? Look, and I'm glad you mentioned Greg, too, with 2 Gs, because in the context of the whole thing, guys, and again, this is an experimental year, and we'll see what happens. But in the context of the Browns winning games and showing improvement and rejoining the relevant, living, breathing, every single week competing NFL, a defense we thought could be good, but we had reservations about, right? Just for one thing we just named, rookie corner. Thin all around. Guys being asked to do too much, and we'll see how Garrett and Ogunjobi hold up with these workloads that they're getting. But all of a sudden, the defense that you thought could be pretty good or you knew would be good has been probably better than advertised. And the offense, signs of life, you knew there was going to be an improvement curve. Like, you've got arrows pointing up. Now, the special teams are abominable and embarrassing, okay? We can figure this out. We can figure this out. It's only September. But, for example, this little read pass, I'm not going to call it an RPO because you're never more than 2 times a game. You're not going to get away with Baker on a designed run. But this little read pass with Callaway in the flats and Njoku standing wide open in the middle, like, it's pretty hard to cover, right? And they haven't worked on it.
Right.
Like, moving Jarvis Landry around and knowing that he can get somewhere and the quarterback in a 2.2-second drop back can put it in the window if you don't stick the safety right where he needs to be, like, it's hard to cover that. And this is progress. All of a sudden you can do it. And you haven't even worked on it. So, look, the Browns benefit from making the change now, from the extra practice this week, from getting Baker. In 2 or 3 weeks, he will be so much better after going through 3 weeks of real game planning and now actually practicing. The flip side of that is, yes, defenses will see him too, and there will be times when Njoku and Higgins look like just guys because they are just guys. But in the overall advantage, the arrow's pointing up, the room to grow seems great. And we know it's a fucking quarterback league, and if the kid plays with poise and gets rid of the ball, that's half the battle, and we'll see where he goes from here. That's really encouraging. Again, defensively.
Hey, the real judgment of any great player or any player in any league, especially when they're young, is how they bounce back after a bad game, not after a good game.
Yes.
Remember that.
Exactly.
That's the truth. That's what we're going to find. And I think he can work in this league in the right system with the right situation. Whether I like the draft picks or not, that's nor here nor there. There's things, just like Mahomes in Kansas City is working because they put great talent around him to precede that, right? And you talked about everybody's got average guys that play. When you talk about Higgins, you talk about other guys. Every team has a guy that's average or below average, but if you use him right and you have the right talent around him, you can make that average guy or below average guy a little bit better. That's what the great teams do, right? You put all together, you mix it all up in there, and you make a guy. You take away, okay, if a guy can't block that well, if a guy doesn't run to the outside that well, okay, you don't use him in those types of plays. You use him in a way where he's a decoy in certain things, but you have to have some talent around him to make that work. You can't have a bunch of talent. We've seen where that'll get you.
Someone asked me last night. Someone asked me last night why. Said obviously what Baker has always done is get rid of the ball quickly and trust where it's gone. Right, like that's right. What he does, and especially. The one that doinks off Charles comes to mind, but a couple plays in the preseason and one later in the game, I forget who he threw to. Rolling right to be that accurate, like that's a hard throw to make, right? Like it's hard on guys to do that, and he can do that. But someone asked me this, said why, even though that's Baker's strength, why was he getting rid of it so quickly and Tyrod was holding it? Like what's the design? And without knowing,
no. I can give you. Let me give it.
Okay, well, give me your answer first. Yeah,
Jets have played against the Bills twice a year. They've seen them. They bunched up the receivers, jammed receivers, and brought blitzes from safeties were up tight. They put 8, 9 in the box. They dared them to run. And then they laid off and did not defend the same way against the rookie quarterback for whatever reason, because that's usually what you do against rookie quarterbacks. I would love to be a fly in the defensive room of the New York Jets, but I can tell you, and I texted this to you during the game, the defensive scheme was completely different. They obviously knew how to stop, and I don't know what the numbers were last year, Bills versus Jets.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, and we just talked about this with Baker. They know what they need to know about Tyrod, right?
Sure.
Jets knew the book is out. The book is out on how to defend him. There isn't a book on him, and that was the big difference for me that I noticed. They didn't try to jam receivers nearly as much. They didn't blitz nearly as much. They didn't try. There was a lot of weak side blitzes early in the game, meaning wherever the tight end was, there's a lot of backside blitzes. And I mean, there were a couple plays Tyrod didn't even go through a 3-step progression. He literally got to the top of his drop and guys were in his face already.
Well, yeah.
But at the same time, Ty does hold the ball too long. There's no doubt about that either.
Well, I like your answer, and I think it makes perfect sense. My answer was without knowing the play calls and the reads, I can't give that answer, but what I said was it was quite clear that the Jets knew what they were doing because everybody's saying this offensive line. I mean, guys were running to the spots like before the offensive line saw them. Like Tyrod did not see them, and when he did, he couldn't do anything about it. And then it got to the point.
Go anywhere, right?
Yeah, it got to the point that he started seeing ones that weren't there, and then that's when you're really done.
Right. It's like a boxer. It's like a boxer. You get hit so many times, you start jumping. And I'm not laughing at it, but it goes up. It goes up the statement you said though too. You get the hell beat out of you. Suddenly, you start feeling the hits from all over the place that aren't even there.
So Baker coming in with them dialed into a certain way, with them, being winded and getting the crowd, getting everybody going. I mean, it's set up. It was Baker Mayfield freewheeling football, and that's set up. The bottom line is the guy had a hell of a challenge in front of him, a hell of a difficult set of circumstances because he hadn't practiced with these guys, had a crowd on edge, a franchise on edge, a 14-0 deficit, and he came in and delivered, right? So even if we did have the benefit of the film right in front of us, of knowing who was supposed to be where from quarter 1 to quarter 4, all of that, it's clear he came in, he put the ball where it needed to be put. He was really good. Guys rallied around him, and they just knocked the shit out of the Jets, literally and figuratively, to the point that when they did I think the last two, the one touchdown drive was 69 yards. The other one was 85. You include a penalty, 75 on the stat sheet. But it just the Jets were done, and they were not going to score. And so there is work to be done. And as you guys know, I've been skeptical about Baker, mostly because of his size. And we'll see, how he holds up and what the next steps are as teams see him. But in August, when I think that he really started to get comfortable, I said this on here, Dre, we've talked about it off the air too. You could see the kid was as advertised in terms of command, poise, accuracy, which is, a lot of people would argue, is the most important trait in today's NFL. So he has those things. So I still don't know what his ceiling is, but my absolute hat is off to him for what he did the other night. And is if he can continue to be those things, and all indications are that he can be because this is how he's gotten here, and he clearly has the attention and the respect of the locker room, then that gives him a chance, and we see where it goes from here. So the bottom line is the victory fridge shit is over with. The whole Super Bowl shit, streak, jump in the lake, all this stuff is over with. The Browns have a quarterback. The Browns, it's exciting to watch Browns games again. Browns games are unpredictable in the end result again. And, like, you can start to nitpick and start to look and say, okay, whether he goes on this incredible run and becomes Rookie of the Year and they win 7 games, or whether he just wins a few more home games and they play close games and they're competitive as shit, 4-11-1, whatever it is, you're going to say, I think so, as long as, based on what I've seen, I think in December and January, you're going to be able to say, okay, the Browns' arrow is definitely pointing up in areas A, B, and C. The Browns definitely have question marks in areas X, Y, and Z. And let's see where John Dorsey and Baker Mayfield go from here.
You left your name out, and I'm just telling you, and I'm saying this to everyone, just not you. We can feel how we feel. Give Hugh Jackson some fucking credit. I'm not crazy about everything he says. I'm not crazy about every decision he makes. They gave him no talent for 2 years. They gave him no chance to win for 2 years. I said this in the last podcast. Look, none of us are perfect. Shit, there's nights where I question things about Tito Francona constantly, and he's one of the best that probably has ever been around. And he's the one that gave me this when he said, because he understands. He goes, I understand. I think I've said it on the podcast before. When Terry Francona said to me, hey, I get fandom. He goes, I used to fucking boo Lute Olson, and he's a fucking Hall of Famer, and the court's named after him. He goes, but that's how it goes when guys, when a fan is watching a game. All I'm saying is, I don't have to like Hugh Jackson. Zach doesn't have to like Hugh Jackson. The guy around the corner doesn't have to like Hugh Jackson. His team plays fucking hard for him. His team hasn't given up on him. Until your team gives up on a coach, you got to credit that guy and let him be the coach that he is, whether we like it or not.
I'll agree with that.
And I mean, and they haven't. They could have rolled over 3 weeks in a row. We continue saying they have better talent. We continue saying all the positive things that they do. Well, just like with the president, or just like with anything else, you got to give credit to whoever's in charge if things are getting better. Things are better. Like you said, we can finally nitpick them like a real NFL team. We can't sit there and say, they have real NFL players. That does not mean that we agree with everything that they do, but we got to stop with the bullshit every time 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 5 doesn't get completed, and you just want to fire the coach. His team, no matter how you feel about him, plays fucking hard for him. That means something at the end of the day, especially considering the football we've all watched over the last 20 years. They are playing their ass off for him.
I'll agree with that, and I'll follow it with this. They finally ditched the streak and the burden and all that shit, right? So it's onward and upward from here. And even in week 7 or 8, as I mentioned, we'll forget weeks 1 and 3. But the common thread in those 3 games is that the Browns were resilient, right? They were as dead as I've ever seen a team against the Steelers. Right. They were dead for the first 22-ish minutes. They were as dead as I've ever seen a team against the Jets. Even when Drew Brees did what Drew Brees does, they came back against the Saints before all that wild shit went on. So, yeah, a lot of that was chasing the first win, and they did that. But this team has shown that it knows it's better. And this goes back to the spring and the summer when defensive guys were saying, for the first time in years, we're actually getting challenged by our offense in practice.
Right.
And so, guys, like I said, there's going to come a time when Baker and Denzel Ward, for that matter, are going to have rough days, and the Browns need those guys, right? There's going to come a time when the Browns are having a great day, and Jarvis Landry is going to get back-to-back 15-yarders, and the Browns are going to blow a game, right? And there's going to come a day when you're going to motherfuck Hugh, Greg, and Todd Haley, right? You're going to do it. And maybe Todd and Greg are going to go toe-to-toe on the sideline, and I just hope that the cameras catch it when they do. But, like, there is a real good and real interesting combination of talent, hunger, and juice, and I promise that's pun not intended, on this team right now. And like I said, I encourage you to not get caught up in just the Oakland game, as exciting as it be. I'm not trying to take away the fact that you can actually look forward to a fucking Browns game for once, right. for the first. But I'm saying, look at it in the scope of you come back to back-to-back games against the Ravens and the Chargers, teams that have been in the playoffs 7 of the last 10 years or thereabouts, teams that are fringe Super Bowl contenders every year, and you get a chance to see your team, your franchise grow over these next 3 games and see where they are.
Time out, Professor.
Okay.
These crazy mofos that are still dilly-dillying, they should be so fucking excited for September 30th, 4 o'clock. I hear what you're saying, but slow down. As much as I'm trying to temper all this craziness that I've heard on the radio and seen since Thursday night, damn right, for once, like you said, they should be excited about the Oakland game. No matter what happens, and they get this. All I would say is this. This is a weird time to be it's weird for all of us because we've gone 600 and given days. Like it was pissing me off. We've gone so long without this reality that now we're all trying to figure out how exactly to live with it. And I think next Sunday at 4 o'clock, man, that should be an amazing moment because we haven't had moments like that.
No,
to talk about. And I'll say this. If they play with the same resiliency that they played the first 3 weeks, they got a chance to win the game. And damn, how nice has it been? How nice is it just to think that and say that? If they play with the same wherewithal that they played the first 3 regular season games, they've got a chance. That doesn't mean they're going to win. That doesn't mean that you might not break your TV. That doesn't mean that you may want to cuss out Hugh or cuss out this guy. That's part of it. I know what you're saying, and you're not wrong, but for once, I'm going to go to the other side and say, you know what, damn it, get excited for that Oakland game. Get excited. I'm excited to see
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying don't get excited. I'm saying it's exciting enough that you can look and say, like, hey, like, we're going to play in October where we're going to have chances to win, like, maybe have a win streak. Maybe beat some good teams. Maybe, like, really see progress and look around and say we're back in the real NFL. That's all I'm saying.
Right. No. You're right. I mean, and here's the funny part of this. I had we took my daughter and son to gymnastics this morning, and a neighbor was by me, and he was just like, and he was kind of having this conversation with me. Was like, well, how excited should I be? Or what are you like? He's overexcited. He's excited as he can possibly be. He's a fan. You know how it is.
Yeah. And
he said, well, how excited should I be? And I was like, enjoy this. And he goes, and we were talking, and I go, I'll be honest with you. And I go, I can't believe this. I'm saying this. I go, if everything everybody's talking about, I go, I'd almost rather for the future, I may rather have or have Cleveland's defense for the future than Pittsburgh's. And he looked at me and he goes, are you serious? And I go, well, if you just look at the raw talent and the players, I go, Pittsburgh's got an issue with their defense right now. I go, Cleveland has the ability for once that you can look forward to what they may have next. Just like if Myles Garrett can grow, if the guys, I love what their defensive line has done so far this season. I love what Ward has been able to do so far. Peppers is still. I like Demarius Randall has played good ball. I don't want to go above and beyond, but there are some things that you can be excited about with this defense going forward if they can keep it together the right way.
And when they do make the plays, if you actually score a touchdown or 2 off of them, this game gets a lot easier, right? And we still haven't seen Myles Garrett play but a few minutes with the lead. Imagine if the Browns are ever up 11 with 11 minutes to go. He's going to end somebody.
And he can tee off. And,
yeah.
Right, and he can actually tee off on people. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That kid has a chance. They have the parameters. I'll go back to what Phil Savage used to teach us, right? Phil Savage used to say you need somebody that can hit the quarterback, somebody can pick off the quarterback if you want to be a good defense, right? They got those guys now.
No doubt. You got in Ward and Garrett, you've got potential, and Garrett I think is more than blue chip guys at the premium positions. Every team in the league, good, bad, and in the middle, long good, just starting to get good, falling to shit, is looking for corners and pass rushers. There is no doubt about it.
Exactly.
There is no doubt about it. Exactly. All right, 2 quick things because we both got to go. I know we're only at the 30-minute mark. Postscript to Little Mikey, the milkshake man.
Oh.
He was sweating it out. He didn't give up, but his mom and his sisters went to bed, and on the Philly special, the 2-point play, he screamed so loud he woke them up. He celebrated, double fist pumped the Carlos Hyde touchdown, and when the interceptions came in the middle, I heard my man pissed himself. He was a little too excited. He got his milkshake on Friday. It was so long the local Dairy Queen shut down. They went to another Dairy Queen. They got Mikey his milkshake. The Browns are back, and little Mikey's back. American Fireworks Glory Days, Dre. As I look out my window right now, my neighbor kids are getting ready to go to homecoming. Give us a high school homecoming Glory Days story.
Damn, man. Wow, you got luck. Here, the best part about this segment is he never tells me what he's going to hit me with, but he always knows if I think long enough, I can give you guys some crazy shit that's happened in my life. Gosh, homecoming. I mean, I got a couple. I got to make sure I say them the right way.
I had something I was going to say, but somebody might take it the wrong way. So,
yeah. I know kids listen, and have fun, be smart. Don't. I pass. I can't believe I'm in shock right now, but I'm just like, nah, don't tell that, Trey. I'm telling you, if you meet me at a watering hole somewhere and I've got about 3 in me, ask this question and we'll have some fun.
All right. Closing thought from me. Closing thought from me. Today, my paternal grandparents celebrate 67 years of marriage. Awesome thing.
That's awesome.
I'm damn near 40, as you guys know. Sometimes I talk like I'm 60 on this podcast. I still have all 4 of my grandparents. Today is also my maternal grandfather's 96th birthday. He played 18 holes of golf yesterday. We all went to our favorite Mexican restaurant where he had a king-size margarita to the point that he thought he lost his wallet when he left, filed a police report and everything. He was so drunk it was found in the pocket of his pants today. 3 things are undefeated.
Him and little Mikey both got to change their drawers.
3 things are undefeated, and king-size margaritas are the 3rd. He's Andre. I'm Zach. We'll see you next time on A to Z.
Peace.